everybody, welcome back. Beautiful Thursday. Amazing. The sun is coming up a little bit, but it gets orange color in the sun. It's like orange, and it's beautiful. Beautiful morning. A little bit chilly, but yeah, still beautiful. Now I want to talk about the debt market in fiat land, and I just saw the rate on the 10-year yield in the U.S. 10-year yield is up. It's about 4.6%. Now, this is crazy. Okay, just a couple years ago, this was close to 0%, right? 0.5, 0.4. Now it's at 4.6. So that's like crazy high, like multiples higher than what it used to be. And this is how the economy was running at 0.4, right? And now it's in like 4.6s, right? So think about the magnitude high this interest rate has to be now. Now the Federal Reserve doesn't have any control over that because it's the private money that comes to buy the government yield, the 10-year yield. It's not the government. Yes, you can say sometimes the government come by it to manipulate the price, and they just come in the market and then purchase a bunch of 10-year yield and then lower the yield down to make it a little bit attractive, for some buyers, right? But at some point they won't be able to control it anymore, and their yield will just skyrocket because the government has there's so much money they can spend into that, right? And once it's skyrocketed, and what's gonna happen? Well, they're just not gonna be able to pay those yield, right? It's gonna be too expensive. The interest rate, the yield is the interest rate on the government, right? So the more people take their money out, the higher the yield, and the more the government is in trouble to find money to fund themselves. So I think it's a good thing that yield is going up, because we don't want the government to have money to fund themselves anyway, right? So why the Chinese government have to fund the U.S. government so they can have the right to attack the individuals, right? That's giving them power to to put more rules and fund more oligarchs on the people. So I don't think it makes sense. You'll say, well, it's benefit the people in welfare and stuff like that. Well, first of all, the people, right, they shouldn't be in welfare in the first place, right? So you say, well, why this is good, this is mean. This is not mean. Well, first of all, if there wasn't a welfare system, right, if there wasn't a welfare state, those people in welfare would be better off because prices would be lower, would be cheaper. Prices of food, of rent, everything else would be cheaper, right? The price to rent a house, to buy houses, would be way lower. So those people, there could be, even if they didn't want to work, they could just work 2 days a week and still be able to pay for rent and food, right? But now, because the government is in control of the money, they print so much. Now those people, they cannot even afford, even if they go to work full time, they can't even afford their food, right? They cannot afford rent, right? They have to rely on the government, right, on top of their working, right? So the problem is the fiat money printer, right? The government money. That's a problem. And once you defund them, you make them powerless over the people. So I think that's a solution. You just defund them. So 10-year yield is going up, and now they can use other tools like oppression. They can't just say, hey, I'm not gonna give you more than 2% on those yield, right? They can't do that. Or they can just sit down and say, hey, they can say, okay, I'm just gonna print money and give you that money, right? They can't just print the money and say, hey, here's how much I'm gonna give you, right? So that's crazy too, because that's gonna be affecting more people in the middle class. More people are gonna go poor. You're gonna have more tent cities. Inflation is gonna go higher, right? So you're gonna have all these problems, right? So that's the thing, right? It's an interesting thing to watch, because now they don't have this as much amount of money they would like to have, and debt, right, is at 23 trillion. The national debt and the U.S. government is 33 trillion, but this is just for the U.S. I know it's like over 400 trillion over the world, right? The global debt, 400 trillion, over 400 trillion, and I think it's gonna go to 500 trillion very soon. So this debt is not payable. It's not payable. You can't pay that back. Right? They have to use financial oppression on the people. What does that mean? Well, that means they have to print more currency. Right? More local currencies will be printed to pay the interest. And the more they print, the more the interest goes up, and the more this whole thing blow up. Right? The faster it blows up. Right? So I think that's the deal here. And this is why I think things like CBDCs will be inevitable. People will be crying for it. Why? Because there's no money in the bank. Well, they're gonna have to obey and then just follow the CBDCs, right? But the problem with the CBDCs is like, now you don't have a fixed amount of money in your account. You will be like, okay, hey, this money is there for a certain amount of time, and if you don't use it, it's expired. Now, the question of saving is out of window, right? You don't have saving anymore. Your money is not yours anymore, because there's a third party that will, take that money out of your account, right? Say, hey, this is not yours. This is for other purposes, right? So then, if this is like that, then this is not your money. This is somebody else's money, right? So if this is somebody else's money, then you don't own it anymore, right? Even now, you still don't own it. It's just digit 1 and 0s on a computer. You see on the screen, but it doesn't show, like it's not really money. It's not real. It's just a ledger on the bank balance sheet, but it doesn't show anything. But now I wish there would be a solution, and the solution is Bitcoin, because now you can own the thing. It's there. It's not gonna have an expiry date. The Bitcoin is here. It's gonna be here for you for as long as you want, right? So you save it, you send it to your own wallet, right? You don't leave it on a Bitcoin exchange or Bitcoin broker. You take it to your own custody, because if you leave it on a Bitcoin exchange, you steal it in the system, because the Bitcoin exchange has to be regulated by the system. So the Bitcoin exchange, will still comply to the rules, right? So anyways, this is my 2 satoshis for today, right? Like 10-year yield is under fire, and it's defunding the government, and I think it's a good idea. It's not going to be good for people in retirement, for sure, yes, because those people rely on this funding, on this money to, to keep coming. I get it, but this will be a good lesson for the next generation, so they don't trust people with their retirement money, so they can take that to their own control, right? So most of this retirement money, anyway, when you get older, they're not gonna pay you for as much as you worked, right? I have people work 30 years, and then after 30 years, they come for retirement, and then they tell them, oh, this money is not, it's not enough, right? Because it's a fixed income, right? It's a fixed income, right? Yeah. So they just says, let's say they're gonna give you $1,000, right, a month, just $1,000 a month. Yeah. 5 years from now, it's still gonna be $8,000 a month, right? You can protest. How many people will go to protest against that, right? So not too many, right? Like you old, you're gonna be old. You're gonna be like in some ages. What do you think you're gonna do, right? How can you fight, right? It's not gonna be easy. So that's why you have to take the responsibility now when you can. So when the time comes, right? So I think we should just take our money and our own responsibility. Don't give it to the government for retirement, right? That's what I think we should do. And never give the government your money to save for you. You should save your own money. You're not stupid, right? So anyways, that's my 2 satoshis for today, and I hope you guys enjoy this talk. I'll see you again in the next talk. I think it's this year day for most people, Thursday. This year day, and I'll see you guys again in the next talk. This was PieCover.